Okay guys, so it's been, nearly 3 days now since we finished the challenge. The challenge was to do 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. So that's basically 50 miles over 2 days. It's 2 marathons in 2 days. Now I guess I wanted to leave it for a period of time to have some, self-reflection, to see, what I learned out of that. I didn't want to do it straight away because, a lot of it probably would have been pretty emotional, as opposed to more logical and like what I learned out of it. So, I just wrote down a few key points here from what I took out of the challenge, and maybe some points for people who are thinking about doing it, to avoid maybe things that I did. So I guess there's definitely some I guess from the start, when I finished it, I said I would never again do something like that. After 3 days, my thoughts have changed somewhat on that. I think I learned an awful lot. I learned an awful lot about the challenge. I learned an awful lot about myself. And ultimately, the main reason why I did it in the first place was, coming into this climate that we have now, there's a lot of uncertainty, this whole pandemic. People are, they are, how would I say, they're crazily shopping. They are, flustered, they're losing their jobs, they have to stay at home in isolation. There's lots of things that have happened over the last 2 or 3 months that have created, 2 or 3 weeks, that have created a lot of uncertainty. And a lot of uncertainty even in my own business. A couple of weeks ago we had a thriving business. We had 80, 90 people working for us. Last week we had to let everybody go. So there's a lot of uncertainty in my own life, and I knew for the next 3 or 4 months that really, if I'm to get through that for myself personally, mentally, plus my business, and to be able to bounce back the other side, that we're all of us together going to need to work mentally on our own brains. And our own thoughts and our own actions and our own inner voice. So I decided to do this challenge to steel myself, to give myself a bit of a mental workout, so that I can start to really see where I'm at mentally. Am I capable of taking on these challenges? Am I capable to push through? I heard a lot about hitting the wall, and what's going to happen when I'm on mile 30 and I hit the wall. Am I going to pack it up and give in, or will I keep going? So I wanted to do all of those things, to one, find out where I was at, and two, to if I was to get through it, to be able to give myself a really great mental workout. And so I'm glad I did. A few things I took from it is, mentally, this challenge was really, really challenging. Particularly, the first probably 15 miles, 20 miles was fine, but after that, each step that I would take, it felt like a bit of a funeral. Each one, your feet are sore. You've got aches in areas that you never knew could ache. You've got muscles hurting in areas that you didn't even know you had muscles. I did it, unfortunately, with absolutely zero training in terms of running. I think before that, in the previous 10 years, I had done maybe a cumulative amount of probably about 2 miles. So I went straight into that, and to go from that to doing 50 miles is it's silly really, but I did it. But after about mile 15, it really started to ache. And what I learned about mentally though is that when you think that you're done, realistically, you're only about 50% done. I felt that I was done after about miles 17 or 18, but I just kept plugging away, and I kept plugging away. And I guess when I look back now, why is that? I think your brain is designed to keep you alive, to keep you safe, to keep you out of danger, and to keep you in your comfort zone. That's what the entirety of your brain's role is to keep you safe, keep you comfortable, and to keep you alive. So I think it's like in the odometer in your car. When you are going at a certain speed, your odometer goes your engine starts to rev out, and your odometer goes into the red, and that's the signal for you to change gears. And I think it's the same thing, when you push your brain, your body to a certain limit, and they call it the wall in running. I think once you're at that, that's the odometer, that's the engine revving out, and that's your brain telling you to stop, stop, stop. It was my brain saying, no, 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 I can't go any further. Don't. You're too tired. You're too sore. Why are you even doing this? This is really silly. This is a really stupid idea. And if you can just change gears and keep pushing through, well, out the other side of that comes a lot of growth, a lot of belief, a lot of confidence in yourself. So I think that's what I took out of it, is that when you think you're done, you're actually really only 50% done. So I thought I was done around maybe 17 or 18 miles, and by 2 days later I was after doing close to 50 miles. So I learned a lot of confidence out of that, is to one, not listen to the inner voice. The next that I took out of that is when your inner voice is screaming at you, it's like mental warfare, tell you to stop. You can be the let your mind be in charge, or you need to learn how to control your mind. All right, so it's to learn how to turn down the volume on those negatives, on the brain and your inner voice tell you that you can't do it, it's not possible. It's to learn, and I think by being able to complete the challenge, particularly over mile 25 to 50, because the voice is still there, that inner voice is still there, but you just your brain just finds a way to, if you keep pushing through, to turn down the volume on that inner voice, so that you don't really listen to it. You don't listen to your voice saying it's too painful, you're too sore, it's too long, you're never going to be able to do it. Now those voices are there, you've kind of muted them a small little bit. And that's where you get into the point then where your brain, where you allow yourself to perform, you allow yourself to continue, and in fact, it's not that the pain goes away. I think it's more that your brain just becomes impervious to the pain, and you get to continue and to keep going. So I learned that. I also learned a few things about there's a phrase that I've seen a lot, which is I didn't come this far to only come this far. I think a lot of the time too, instead of focusing at the end, instead of focusing at the destination, and at the start of the challenge I was focusing, there's only 12 to go, or 11 to go, or 10 to go, or 9 to go. Well, once I was in the middle of each challenge, running each of those 4 miles, well, I really just tried to enjoy the miles. I really just tried to, take things in around, whether it was the scenery, whether it was the ocean that I was running beside, the nice weather, or the sunshine, or the sunset, or in the middle of the night when you're running at 4 o'clock, to be able to enjoy the stillness, the quietness that's all around. There's nobody around, there's nobody running, there's nobody talking, nothing's happening, there's no noise. So I was really enjoying that, and I really tried to focus on every step and just enjoying it as much as I possibly could, as much as you would be allowed to do that. But just one step in front of the other. And then I was reminded of that little kid's story that was told about the rabbit and the hare. The story is where the rabbit, he takes off and he goes miles ahead, but then he falls asleep because he thinks he's so far ahead. But the rabbit and the tortoise. But the tortoise keeps going. Very slow, but he doesn't stop, and he keeps plodding along, and he keeps going, and he keeps going, and he keeps going, and eventually passes out the rabbit. And I think that's the same thing in this challenge, which is just to not focus on the end, not focus on the destination, but to really focus on the journey and each mile and each step, and just enjoying it, and keep going, just one foot in front of the other, keep going and keep going and keep going, and eventually that goes from 50 miles to 49 miles to 48 miles to 25 to 20 to it'll keep ticking over, and the goal becomes smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. So they're just two of the things that I took out of it. I think another thing which I felt was a really important aspect of it as well is that adversity as well. So when you're going through it, it gets really challenging for sure. And I think I read a phrase by I think it was Albert Einstein, which talks about adversity introduces a man to himself. So that's what I really learned out of it, is that when you think you're finished, you're actually not, and it gives you a massive amount of confidence to know that you kept pushing through, you kept going, and you didn't stop. Despite all of your fears, despite all of your internal negative speak, in spite of all those things that you kept going, because people are going to come through adversity, particularly right now in this economic climate, and particularly in this period of crisis with the health crisis. There's a lot of adversity going to be faced by people over the next coming months, and the strongest will survive. And generally speaking, it's going to be the strongest mentally will survive, because once you're strong mentally, you can, just like I think I proved to myself, that you can overcome any pain and any challenge, and it gives you a much better perspective. Like during the run as well, I was going through a lot of pain at one point, and I thought of a friend of mine who is suffering from cancer at the moment, and would I prefer to be in my position or his position? Well, I would take my position. And do my problems seem very, very large in comparison to his problems? And the answer was no. And eventually, going through those miles, I started to feel more grateful. I was feeling grateful that I was able to do, this really challenging run. And I was feeling really grateful that I was in a position to be able to do that. And I took comfort in somebody else's pain, I think it was, and I felt better about my situation. I felt better about myself. There's always somebody that's worse off than you. There always will be. It doesn't matter what you've gone through. If you've just lost your legs, you've gone through a horrific financial, crisis, or you've just lost your business or marriage, there's always somebody that's going to be in a worse situation. That it's back to this phrase, which is, I felt bad I had no shoes until I saw a man who had no feet. Right? So I tried to do that as well throughout the challenge, which is it just gave me a better perspective on where I was at. And suddenly again, it was like taking a shot of painkiller. Like the pain went away, and your brain, it's just like your brain just finds different ways to cope with pain. All right. So I learned that about it too. And the last thing was just like pushing comfort zones. I think, look, so many of us, we get into a situation in life or in relationships or in business where we get into a certain situation, we're really happy with that situation, we're happy in our little bubble, everything is good, we don't want to upset the status quo, everything is great, and that's fine. But I think where the real growth happens, where the real development happens, is when you push yourself out of your comfort zones. So this is a massive comfort zone for me. 5 days later, I feel, whatever it is now, 4 days later, I feel so much more confident having done that. I feel like I could take on another challenge right now. I feel ready for the challenges of my business, in the situation that is over the next 3 months I'm going to be able to handle that. The health crisis that's happening, I'm going to be able to handle that and deal with other people's problems, so much better because of, me pushing my own comfort zones and my brain revealing to itself, and adversity revealing to me and revealing to the men that I am capable of taking on challenges, and I am capable of stepping up, and when the going get tough, the tough really do get going. So I'm very, very excited about that. Some few tips that I would give to people to finish off is don't do it without training. Definitely train. That would be a good thing to do. The second thing is to physically train and be prepared for your brain to say, no, you got to stop at some point. In fact, be prepared to even maybe for other negatives like your family. I think my family called me. I think they nearly wrote a petition and sent it over to me. I got lots of text messages from my family telling me that I stop and you shouldn't keep doing this, and you've done enough and we're very proud of you and everything like that, but please stop. And that's the duty of family, to take care of you, to protect you from what they feel is something that's going to hurt you. So there's negatives that might be coming from your family. There's definitely going to be negatives coming from your internal mind and your internal voice. So you got to be able to turn down the volume and all those things and still be able to see the goal at the end of it and why am I doing this. So I really enjoyed it at the end. I think after maybe an hour or two, turned around to my colleague Eddie, who did it with me, and I was saying to him, you want to do another 4 miles? And when I was at mile 15, there was no way I thought I would have done that. But like I say, your brain is amazing computer, and you'll teach yourself, if you keep going, you don't stop, you'll teach yourself that you learn that your brain is, like I say, a powerful computer. It's the most powerful computer yet to be invented, and if you have it work for you, you can achieve great and wonderful things. If you have a work against you, well, it will hold you back, like a weight around your neck and pull you down. So the challenge is the challenge. I would advise everybody to do it, everybody to train for it, and everybody to complete it. Doesn't matter if you run it, doesn't matter if you have to walk it, doesn't matter if you have to cycle it by the time you finish, but the simple, action of getting up every 4 hours and going for those 4 miles every day for 48 days or 48 hours. Just the simple act of doing that, like, steals your brain, makes you makes you mentally tougher, makes you ready for other challenges that are thrown our way, and it just makes you an all-round, I feel, mentally stronger person, happier person, better perspective, more grateful for things in your life. Your brain just starts to reveal those things to you. So after the 3 or 4 days, once you relax and get back to normal, you just feel so much better. So I wish everybody I wish everybody to do it, and send on some comments or some questions if you have any others, and we'd be happy to answer them for you.